So that tension, junje tension, tab in this ane, any dunge junje, dawa junje take it over, and damashi take it over.
So now back to our main discussion.
Dunge junje ni buddhi, that should tab, isn't it?
Back to our main discussion. Because of the feasibility of dependent origination, then we see the feasibility of the possibility of the dependent origination by means of dependence on causes and conditions. If that's the case, then the causation is also feasible. So on that basis, we can then conceive of the idea of the law of causality, the natural law of causality in relation to the suffering.
So suffering obvious. Now, according to Buddhist concept, in the Four Noble Truths, teaching of Four Noble Truths, then suffering, there are three levels of suffering. Suffering of change, suffering of
the pervasive conditioned suffering.
The first level of suffering is like headache or all these suffering which we consider as a suffering. Now that's the first level. That even animal also recognize as a suffering, and they also do not want, and they also make every attempt to overcome that. Now second level of suffering is suffering of change. Namjung also digil that. Sakshega digil, namjung digil that, sakshega digil di
So what is this suffering of change? All the experiences of pleasure and happiness that we consider as happiness, they belong to the second category of suffering of change.
When we got new car or new house, we are very happy, isn't it? We enjoy it. And then 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, or 1 year passed, I feel, oh, this is not so nice. Same object. But then, you see, that same object one time gives you satisfaction, then later gives you frustration. Isn't it? So that's the second level, suffering of change. So that's important. The animal usually, I think, do not have that kind of capacity to recognize that. But non-Buddhist school of thought, Sungam, Sumikam, Gita, come turning in the Father Sunday Shiva is turning in the and the thought the order doing it.
So then samsara is classified into three realms: the form realm, the desire realm, formed realm, and formless realm.
Kamadadu, Rubadadu, Arubadadu. So I think that's common, isn't it? Yes. Hindus also, you see, the same.
So in fact, all these classification of the entire samsara into three categories, it is something commonly stated, commonly accepted by Buddhists and the Hindus alike.
Among the Rubadadu, the first level, second level, third level, fourth level, then furthermore, because of the detail, then 17 different levels. The Rubadadu, 4 mainly, if go detail, 17, then Arubadadu, again 4. So that's the cultural.
And then in the formless realm, or the non-corporeal realm, the third realm, the highest realm, that is further divided into 4 realms. It is further 4 divisions of the realms. The first one is the formless realm of the infinite space. And the second one is the formless realm of the infinite consciousness, or the infinite mind. And then the third is the formless realm of formless realm of the formless realm of nothingness or non-existence. And the last one is the formless, the peak of samsara, the peak of existence.
So now from fourth arvadado four, and then from fourth, then no experience of pleasure.
When you are there in the fourth realm, according to the no, so those beyond the fourth realm of the form realm, fourth of the form realm, beyond that, there is no experience of the contaminated pleasure.
So that you do really touch it.
So as such, they are freed from the suffering of change. Because the kind of feeling that they have is only neutral feeling.
That to me somebody duji to me said nyumong be xiangwang jen. That tatu no tenzing xiangwang do yoba tisi do duji to me is.
Now what is the third kind of suffering? The pervasive conditioned suffering. So that is, it says, as long as one is under the control of the destructive emotions or the klesha, then there is no freedom. So being under the sway of afflictions, and particularly being under the sway of a self-grasping mind, there is never freedom. So that is the third. That is the pervasive conditioned suffering.
Buddha is stated, you should know suffering.
Buddha said that identify the suffering.
So if suffering is suffering, suffering means a suffering of suffering, no need that kind of statement. Everybody knows suffering is suffering. But you see, deeper level, you see, we consider something good, but essentially suffering kind. Then ultimately, till we are under the influence of afflictive emotion, sooner or later, we will face some problems. So suffering nature. So that's therefore is Buddha stated.
Know well the suffering.
Know well suffering. That brings question. Now, of course, suffering also, according to the law of causality, is own causes. So then we develop the interest. What is the causes of the suffering? Now the second truth.
The truth of the cause of suffering.
Now big question. Whether only suffering
and this the second truth among the four truths, the second one is the truth of the cause of suffering. And this, the truth of cause of suffering, is again can be classified into two: the afflictive emotions and their respective karmas.
The karma or action. So as I mentioned, we already discussed, is every our action is to come through motivation. Every serious, important action must come through motivation. So the two categories. Now the big question is, yes, obviously, we can see among the emotions, there's different emotions, and you see the emotion contradictory emotions. So that means opposing, different emotion, opposing each other. So there is possibility to change of these emotions because of the opposition there. So that's logic. Right? Now the real question is whether we can eliminate. So therefore, you see, through that way we can fairly understand. Yes, some negative emotion can reduce. But now big question is whether negative emotion can eliminate or not. Now that's the big question. So some ancient Indian philosophy, like bodhichitta, I don't know, you say, according to the Tibetan, I said, those texts which translated from India, from Sanskrit, mainly from Sanskrit, or the Dharma work, and also Baba Baker's work, and some of these texts. You see, according to them, the 5 main ancient non-Buddhist thought. One of them consider afflictive emotion is part of our mind. So long mind there, these afflictive emotion will remain. So now Buddhists argue that the very nature of man mind is pure. So negative emotion is, you see, constantly, sometimes come, sometimes go. Naturally, so long any negative emotion finds opposition, sort of what's it, the force, opposition emotion, then naturally, when opposition emotion come, for example, the loving kindness comes, certain moment, to a certain person, loving kindness come, that moment, that very moment, anger towards that person never come. So like that. So therefore, the main mind is neutral. If main mind is mixed with these negative emotion, then positive emotion because it's impossible to develop. So that's Buddhist argument. So therefore, we have to work, we have to sort of think the possibility to elimination of negative emotion. Now this is now related with the concept of shunya. Shunyata. The things are in the nature of absence of independent existence. So therefore, our kind of emotion which grasping things independently, that's baseless. No valid.
No sound basis of valid cognition.
That's number one. Number two, the very nature of main mind is pure. So, possibility of elimination of negative emotion. So now this brings the third noble truth, cessation. 동네 시외 곡대 장애를 가르치려면 춘이 통을 놓고.
So then, again, the next question is how can one arrive at that state of the cessation of the freedom from the afflictive emotions and the suffering? So for that, we need to arrive at that state with the help of the path or the state of a purified state of mind, which understands the shunyata or the emptiness.
So that is something 되게 간다. 강다 동니 미시바 대다 탈배 때문에 누루 시베 저는 뭔가 대다 코어죠. 다디.
Now, to state this, we read stanza 72. Which says that those who do not understand emptiness are not receptive vehicle for liberation. Such ignorant beings will revolve in the existence prison of 6 classes of beings.
So without realization of absence of independent existence, no possibility to eliminate or overcome these fundamental ignorance or fundamental ignorance. So from that viewpoint, number journey shebe tajomadi Tajumba Senibu Maris, Mumban Shebe, Tajumba di, Mumban Shebe, Tajumba Rema, Tajumba Maris, Karisum, Yumupayo Maris, Karisum Tunu Maris. Charama Rang Lugi, any Kansa Tamis on Compare Mado, she have come to Tunitomo Maris, the name is Yumupayo Maris.
So, in line with what is said in stanza 72, the conclusion is that anyone who is lacking the understanding of emptiness, there is no way by which the person can achieve liberation or nirvana. So it is because of this that the lower schools, even the lower Buddhist schools, they understanding of emptiness.
Even Bodhisattva.
Even the Bodhisattvas who follow the philosophy of the lower schools, lower Buddhist schools, their understanding of emptiness is not complete. As such, although they may put so much effort in meditation to overcome the klesha, the afflictive emotions, the fundamental ignorance, however much they strive, and they may gain some kind of experience as if they have already overcome the entire afflictive emotions, freed from samsara. But in actuality, they haven't really achieved that state of nirvana because they are unable to overcome, they are unable to combat the afflictions altogether because their understanding of emptiness is not complete. The very understanding that they have of the selflessness is the grosser level of selflessness, which is the mere absence of, or the mere emptiness of autonomous substantial existence, and not the emptiness of independent existence. As such, even these practitioners, they are unable to achieve nirvana.
That the DNC, Tandam Chanju Gombe Sudisha.
Up to this stanza, the exposition on the ultimate bodhichitta is explained.
That in the Tadar Tomba, Nindini, Natural by Pomjana, Shanju down a chapel, join you, Tazonis. No other Chanju Sim Shigore.
The text reads, stanza 73. When this emptiness, as explained, is thus meditated upon by yogis, no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others' welfare. From here onwards, it explains the conventional bodhichitta, the desire to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
That day, Tungni Tawa, Lokwa Chai Luzane, Chime Zawa, Denzing Maribola, the Shenyu Tribu Shi, Silo Tao Shi, Dish Ditala, the Bong of Shen, the Bangbe Chawachi Yed Shi Luzane, Da Dunge Seru Imbaji Tongyundu, Da Dunge Seru Imbajilla. Di nyambola mongche. Da deba da tunge mi de shada re di ine ene tunge gi ju pongtop yue shin do tel mongche. Di wang ge tunge na de da ene ningsi kya shu shu jong so ba.
In fact, here the way and the manner in which the cultivation of altruism is set about is first of all by trying to understand the reality, that is the absence of intrinsic or objective existence. When you realize that everything has no basis, everything is absent of independent existence, then you see that the self-grasping mind, the distorted thought, which believes that everything exists inherently or objectively, that mind is distorted, or it has an element of distortion. Once you realize that, then you also see the possibility that the ignorance, this grasping at inherent existence, which is underlying all other afflictive emotions, is something which we can eradicate or eliminate.
and then seeing the possibility of eradicating or freeing ourselves from all these afflictive emotions and this suffering. And then when you see that this is the very nature of every being, everyone having this capacity to eliminate the root of all suffering. And yet, when you see the beings entangled by this ignorance, by this distorted perception, then you will arise a special sense of sentiment, special sense of concern for these beings who are entangled by the ignorance, despite they having the capacity or the seed to freedom.
I think in our daily experience, when we saw some, say, insect, now usually it remain in the dry,
Yes.
but then water usually carrying. Then we can see the possibility to escape from that. Then you see they are concern is not only just a concern, but you see that concern, sense of concern, brings effort, right?
No.
And help that small helpless insect put in
Safe place.
a safe place. But something like ocean, some small insect now there, then yes, you feel sorry. I can't help, like that. So after some experience, or at least intellectually some understanding, the possibility of cessation of suffering due to because of irrigation, elimination causes of the suffering. Once you intellectually have that kind of clear understanding, then that tremendous sort of force to develop genuine sense of concern to sentient beings. Everyone wants happy, do not want suffering, and there is a way to overcome suffering, but yet, due to ignorance, in many cases, they deliberately involve or committing the source of further suffering. So that's the Shikota.
When this emptiness, as explained, is thus meditated upon by yogis, no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others' welfare.
Pöganal nan jor sadi, nan jor pa, Dr. Che, nan jor sadi, ten namala, rangsim jorwe, nel jor sadi. Ten nama, ten matua, ten chijima logo chigla, lo jorwe na, lo jor, nyamsu lembe na, nan jors.
Here, the word yogi, in English it is said, is thus meditated upon by yogis. Yogis has the connotation of those persons who gain some degree of expertise in yoga. So now this yoga, in Tibetan, it is Nel Jor. Nel has the connotation of a genuine or authentic subject or topic. And then Jor has the connotation of combining one's mind with that pure or the authentic object. However, here in this context, it has to be understood in the context of having a highly qualitative or realized state whereby you have the combination of shamatha, calm abiding, and vipassana, special insight.
Da ningji lo de changju sen da ningji liya jidan bana da de shegre da dungen le chana sambe dabat samki de negi da 잔득이 닝지스. 다 배는 잔득이 뒤어서 봐. 땡수로 캐니 동네에 제야 임바 직다 남주고 토하는 시제 동네에 차나 삼을 로직. 다야 딘데게 미시브제 딱 간다 동네 때다 메라 차나 아사베 다 위슈 팅킹 소치. 지금 어서 봐. 다 드네 니 슈체디 좀득이 닝스다티. 다 셴 동이 나왔을 타로지 지금 진도도 로 차는 거지.
Here, as for the great compassion or the compassion, it can be of various kinds. One, with a mere desire to eliminate or to help other sentient beings to get freed from suffering. So on that level as well, we can think of twofold. One with a sense of confidence, seeing the possibility of the other beings reaching the state of freedom from suffering. And then when seeing the suffering in the sentient beings, then you feel a sense of concern, sense of wish that the other beings be freed of suffering. So this one level. And the second level is not involving any sense of intelligence, without understanding the fact that the beings, they have the capacity to get freed from suffering, and simply seeing the suffering in seeing suffering in other beings, and then having generated a mere wishful thinking that, oh, may others be freed from suffering. So this is another level. And then the still more advanced level would be that sense of compassion with a sense of altruism, with a sense of empathy, not only wishing that others be freed from suffering, but taking the responsibility upon oneself, rather generating a sense of altruism, sense of empathy that, oh, I'm going to take the responsibility to help others freed from suffering.
Of course, all these type of compassion is, as I mentioned before, unbiased. That sense of concern you should reach towards your enemy also. So that kind of compassion develop only through training, not come just spontaneously. That shiruk cha ki khabarle shiruk cha mixe mabcheche ningsi dismje sonwe ningsi. 다야 미다보다 남이 라베 캬바도 셰샤베 캬바도 제네 애니 다슴전 미비 닝지 데니 셔르베 닝지 다네네 땡중게 대코나니 런시 상담다니 남이 참여 캬바도 제네 대대비 규모대비 심전은 미네 애니 규모대비 동엘에 잔두겠다 로 레이르자네 다어디 And
then another way of classifying compassion is done on three levels. So first let me iterate these three. The compassion focused on mere sentient beings. And second, the compassion focused on the phenomena. And third, compassion focused on the objectlessness. Three. So now, what do these three mean? The first one, the compassion focused on mere sentient being, implies any sense of compassion which is not associated with any particular wisdom or particular intelligence or understanding, like say understanding of emptiness, understanding of selflessness, impermanence, so forth, without associating with any of these wisdom or intelligence, then merely generating a sense of compassion towards sentient beings. So this is categorized as a compassion focused on mere sentient beings. Second one, compassion focused towards phenomena. Here the phenomena should be understood in the context of the understanding of impermanence, the understanding of the grosser level of the selflessness. So when when a particular compassion is associated with one of these two wisdoms, the wisdom which understands impermanent nature of beings, or the wisdom which understands the grosser level of grosser level of selflessness of person, so that kind of compassion is described as the compassion focused on phenomena. And third is the compassion focused on the objectlessness. So here, the objectlessness refers to understanding of emptiness, the ultimate reality. So here, when one is able to ascertain that the sentient beings to whom you feel compassionate, they lack inherent or objective reality, so then you are able to view the sentient beings in the light of illusion-like nature. And it is because of this that you will generate a compassion whereby you wish that these illusion-like sentient beings be deprived of illusion-like suffering. So this is the third category of compassion, the compassion focused on the objectlessness.
Ningji samba yonglia ningji mikpa semjenamik number dungele ta chanduchi ta chanduni tomduini this that tella mikpa semjenti Cherishing pangpa yung number chandu chawachi chungna chungnasne goyarda the karasramna chizang mikba semjenti Cherishing pangpa number chandu chawa teitsögi te dungele jandu lo de shukshay kurwa sa dine indusane mikba semjenti dala Cherishing pangpa lo chi gegoyar dala ya yung number chandu chagu yung number chandu chador chegoyar 다 용거 나바천도 쳐들쳐야 달라 명아균데 두메고네 랑게 천디 마데베 천베 년도 모주베 심제 요 말이스 도스체니 용거 나바천도 쳐들찍 찍디 daksenям제관에 용거 나바천도 쳐들찍시요.
Now to cultivate this sense of compassion, we need to keep in mind two factors. One, the first one is the object. The sentient beings as the object for which you generate this sense of empathy, sense of concern. So that is the object. And the second one is the attitude in terms of desiring that that these beings be freed of suffering. So the object and the attitude, these two should be what we should be keeping in mind as to train in this practice of compassion. Now the first one, that is object. The sentient beings, other sentient beings as the object, you must be able to view the sentient beings in the light of affection, in the light of intimacy. Because if you are able to view the greater the degree of your sense of intimacy towards the sentient beings, greater would be your desire to free these sentient beings from suffering. Because you have a greater sense of love, sense of intimacy towards these sentient beings. So it is very important that we should try to cultivate this sense of intimacy, sense of love, sense of affection, closeness towards the sentient beings. And as for cultivating that sense of intimacy towards other sentient beings, there are two techniques or methods. The first one is technically it is known as the sevenfold cause-effect relationship to cultivate bodhichitta, and the other the technique of equalizing and exchanging oneself for others. So the first one, which is the sevenfold cause-effect relationship to cultivate bodhichitta, so there the theme or the theme of that technique says that every sentient being has been in one lifetime or the other has been one's mother, has been one's very close and dear ones. So it is on this basis that you try to cultivate a sense of compassion. This is the first technique.
That did what? Anda Pata Madani, Nishi Jurbe Dalama, Papa Chabra Jurbe, Sata digi simjata, Sata digi, sorry, mother part sobe, Niendo, Daya, sing this one.
Yes. As a part of this first technique, let's read stanza 74, which reads, "Towards those beings that have bestowed benefits upon me in the past, such as through being my parents or friends, I shall strive to repay their kindness." So the first three lines explain as to how to view all other sentient beings in the light of intimacy, in the light of closeness, because they have been in one lifetime or the other, been your very kind fathers, kind mothers.
That delia, Namjuda, meditate Chebekadula, that the comjum, some time Kadulia, the subject, Rimbatek surgery, Tangudi, Tanum Goma. The Tanum Gomias Yandi, Ninji Chol, Sagar Cha, Dai Chola, Sagar Tang, Parmala, Tanum Zio, Lotti, Nyamata.
Yes.
Yes, Nyabastro.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So here, this practice of the sevenfold cause-effect relationship to cultivate bodhichitta, if you think carefully, then we see that there are in fact 8 stages. The first one is cultivating the sense of equanimity, sense of evenness. What happens is that in your meditation, when you are meditating on compassion, first you are able to view all sentient beings in the light of evenness, or with equal perception. Because what we tend to have is that we tend to have an excessive sense of obsession towards one's close ones and beloved ones. And whereas we tend to have a sense of repulsion, sense of aversion towards your enemy, and sense of being indifferent, oblivious to the concerns of the neutral persons. So in fact, this form of attitude is hindrance to one's cultivating compassion, universal compassion. So first of all, we need to make even your attitude towards all these different sentient beings. So this is meditation on the equanimity towards all sentient beings.
As we already discussed or mentioned, the biased, limited compassion is actually very much mixed with attachment. So that's a biased one. So biased, limited sense of concern is actually hindrance for development of unbiased compassion or sense of care, sense of concern. So therefore, the first level should detach. Equanimity.
Equanimity.
When we meditate that, visualize in front of us one close friend, one neutral person, one so-called enemy. Then appears, let appear all these 3 groups or 3 persons. Then watch what kind of our attitude towards these 3 persons. Towards the friend, more close feeling, more sense of concern. The other, more negative. The neutral, indifferent way.
No.
So the reason all these 3 persons, right from the beginning, or at the level, at the period of child, no differences. But then eventually, this one is showing me concern or affection, helping me, therefore I consider friend. So this eventually develop negative attitude towards me and harming, right?
No.
Hurting on me.
No.
So I don't like. Now then think, this positive attitude and negative attitude are something permanent? No. And something absolute? No. Due to many factors. Due to certain circumstances, with certain factors, today's friend may become enemy. And this so-called enemy, due to certain factor, may become friend. And at least in the past lives, certainly this will surely not always as an enemy. This also is quite sure is not always a friend. So, due to short period, now we develop that kind of unbiased, biased attitude. So that's the main reason, the way to cultivate equanimity.
No.
So this also not necessarily all the time
Friendness.
So reduce that attachment. This also may not be like that always. So reduce hatred or anger. Then visualize mother of this life, or father, or anyone who really dear to you. Now this person, for example, mother, even before born, this mother cares me while I still in her womb.
Womb, no.
Then after birth. So all this our common experience now. Think, you see, deliberately, you see, think these things. Then gradually you develop some kind of fresh feeling of recognition.
No.
How much kindness.
Yes.
Then the enemy, visualized enemy, or first, I think the neutral person. Now this time, neutral. But some other occasion, this must be, because I must take as my mother.
No.
Right?
No.
Then you develop more closest feeling. Then finally, towards your enemy. This enemy, so-called enemy. Today, yes, due to some reason, I call him or her as an enemy. But in other periods, other lifetime, this person could be very dear to me, like my mother.
Yes. So then, so that is how we try to deliberately view all other sentient beings in the light of being your mother or one's close ones. So this is in the 8 stages. It is the second stage, which is recognizing all beings as one's mother, like one's mother. And third is recalling all beings, meditating as to recall all beings as having been so kind towards you as a mother.
Yes.
And then next is meditating to repay for the kindness that you have received from all other sentient beings when they have been your mothers. So here, because that you have already meditated upon reflecting on the kindness of all other beings as your mothers, then when you think carefully, then we see that it would be so weird and so bad on your side not to think of repaying their kindness, repaying for the kindness that you have received from them. So as such, the next stage is meditating to repay for the kindness received from them.
다 이제 그 진속 고야기 유도도 통일자네 이용 나바지 저도
Then when you're able to reach this stage whereby you feel so strongly the desire to repay for the kindness that you have received, then naturally the next stage will come. That is being able to see all beings in the light of affection, all beings in the light of intimacy and closeness.
이용 참바 되는 인지.
And next is this stage, the next stage is compassion.
되는 인지들이 당연히 학습.
And the seventh stage is the special attitude or the altruistic intention to work for the welfare of other beings.
되는 창조성.
And then eventually generating the awakening mind or the bodhichitta, the desire to benefit all other sentient beings.
당신 냠지권에 올라가야지. 이용 잡아 주자. 그래서 지시만 걸로 주자. 당신 냠지권에 올라가야 될래야. 당신 냠바스.
The second technique, that is the technique of equalizing and exchanging oneself for others in order to cultivate bodhicitta. Here, in order to generate this feeling of intimacy towards all other sentient beings, first you do the meditation on equalizing oneself and others.
I want happiness. I do not want suffering. That 100% the same, the entire sentient being. Want happy, do not want suffering. And also from the viewpoint of right, I have right to overcome suffering. So similarly, entire sentient being, each one have the right to overcome suffering. And also, as a result of meditation or study about shunya, so at least intellectually you understand there's possibility of cessation of suffering. So with the help of that understanding, then my suffering, the rooted ignorance. No. So that ignorance, as we discussed yesterday, there's powerful antidote, validated antidote.
No.
So therefore, in my case, all these suffering can eliminate. There is always possibility. So the rest of the sentient being all have this because of that.
The same
situation. Yes. They can eliminate possibility of elimination of negative emotion, so that possibility to overcome all suffering. Then differences is me just alone, one sentient being. Others, otherness. Now otherness, limitless. So naturally, it is wise, in order to gain 1,000 rupees, to spend 100 rupees is wise. In order to gain 100 rupees and spend 1,000 rupees, foolish. So similarly here, in order to gain more benefit to infinite sentient being, their right or their sort of happiness is more important than just one single person. Then furthermore, that is dakshinyama sarche.
So these are the logics, these are the reasonings to give conviction in yourself as to the equality, in what way you and all other sentient beings are equal.
Then second stage, the
second stage is reflecting or the meditating on the faults of cherishing oneself and meditating on the qualities of cherishing others. Yes. And if you read from stanza 76, which reads, "The fruits which are desirable or undesirable in the form of fortunate or unfortunate births in the world, they come about from helping the sentient beings or harming them." And from the stanzas below, they all explain about pointing to the faults of cherishing oneself and qualities of cherishing others.
So that equalize.
No.
That equalize then the same number of members. Tangent down the
The first stage that we've already explained, that is equalizing. The stage are the meditation on equalizing oneself for others, oneself and others. So here, this is very much different from the meditation on the equanimity as stated in the first technique. So here, it is to meditate on the equalness of all sentient beings in ways of being equal in desiring happiness and being equal in not desiring suffering.
Then second,
Yes. And the first one is equalizing, and the second is reflecting or meditating on the faults of cherishing oneself.
I think all the suffering or problem, individual level, like sometimes is too much angry, then hit oneself. That also happens. And worst case, suicide. Why? And deep inside, I mean, nobody, no sentient being, hate oneself, basically. All sentient being, particularly human being, very much cherish, right, deep inside. But that, you see, narrow and short-sighted, and that, because of that,
because of the excessive feeling of self-centeredness, desiring that everything good comes on you. So when you're unable to fulfill that wish, then you take the extreme step, committing suicide.
So if that, at that moment, you see, there's some altruistic, limited, biased altruistic there, become more active, then of course, I would like to die, but if I die, my friend will worry.
No.
Right? No. My friend will face some
problems
someday.
Will worry.
So take consideration about others' feeling, then suicide will not take place.
No.
But just forget about what others is feeling, then some kind of anger towards oneself, because you see, they fail to achieve what you want. So therefore, the self-centered attitude is even oneself very bad. Then family level, quarrel, or lay people's family, divorce, All these problems is due to just extreme self-centered attitude. Then, on the global level, I think all problems, even today's environmental problem, the political problem, or national problems, all these problems, ultimately, people, or few people, or few individuals, few leaders, extreme self-centered motivation. Do not bother about other feeling, about other right. Then go whatever, action according that extreme self-centered motivation. So a lot of unnecessary problems happen. In India, in this country, I think traditionally the ahimsa take concern about others' life. I think that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So as a small step, all Tibetan monasteries among Tibetan community, Tibetan refugee community, now all common kitchen, now since I think more than 10 years, all become vegetarian food. So this as a small contribution for promotion of non-violence, like that. So all this is suffering, all this problem, due to lack of genuine recognition about their right, about their pains, about their life, like that. Then further, so result, killing, stealing, rape or abuse or lying and
slandering.
All these is negative verbal action, physical action, mental action, all these come through self-centered
Attitude.
attitude. So result was the negative birth.
No.
Right?
No.
Like animal world, like that. Then so long that some extent of self-centered attitude there, and even arahat, finally, shivachajipa.
Yes. Even the arahats, because that they are not freed from self-centeredness, as such, the very goal that they achieved is only very partial, because that goal is a mere self-liberation, it's a partial peace.
The altruism takes sense concern of others' right or others. Then immediately more compassionate attitude, as we discussed yesterday, is the individual immediately feel ease, happier, calm, less fear. Then other, and then out of sense of concern of others' right,
and then because of the consideration towards the well-being of others, then naturally the positive actions will come about, like refraining from killing, refraining from stealing, refraining from sexual misconduct, and so forth.
So
here also we see that the 10 virtuous actions, refraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions, also come about through cherishing others.
Due to different motivation, same act, but in reality, big differences. Now, for example, restrain killing human being. That same act, out of just ordinary way, if I kill, then worst case, death sentence may happen. or even not that, so you have to go to the prison. So out of the fear, restrain killing human being is restraint, but actually it's not religion, not Dharma work. But then, out of sense of concern, if I kill, the negative consequences, even next life, will come as a result of, as a law of karma.
Yes.
Right?
No.
And out of that sort of concern, then restrain harming other of very low level kind of dharmic work, dharmic action.
Yes.
Then they respect others' life and feel if I harm them, what they feel, according to one's own experience. And out of compassion, out of sensible concern, restrain harming. That's the real Dharma work. So, result, immediately you feel happy, and no, in deep inside, no guilty feeling. Although non-vegetarian people, including myself, they say, we enjoy our meat. But then, again, meat with vegetable and cooked, well cooked, even looks is quite beautiful, isn't it? But before that, rat, right?
No.
And sometimes it's traces of blood. The same material, but then you feel a little uncomfortable. Then further goes, right?
No.
Just after killed animal, you can't think, you see,
No.
to eat. Right? Then at the time of killing, how? So
Yes. So in fact, these are the different kinds of deceptions happening on in a mind.
So that Buddhi, Chizamgi, Shan Jibran Zimba, Ditsegi, Mizdikiba, Chad Tao, Pula Pamba, Tudu Nabdi Jarabo.
So here, the summary is that the greater the degree of sense of compassion, sense of concern towards others' well-being is there, greater would be your happiness, the immediate, the long-term benefit, and eventually the achievement of Buddhahood. They all come about through cherishing others.
다 샴드마 디두가 심전 남다 착자와 두진 배배 방어차 년도 남니 착자에 정수면 토미는 심전 용수 마도에 조상계지 정수토 대들 판단 미편배 레분 중을 잡아나 대다 깨지 직장이 랑도 차시 지도네 닝지 때문에 싸워진 장심 요구를 내줘 현주经济 정수니 계산은 공부체
Next we read stanza 82. Support others with all possible factors. Protect them as you would your own body. Detachment towards other sentient beings must be shunned as you would a poison. Because of their detachment, did not the disciples attain lesser awakening? By never abandoning the sentient beings, the fully awakened Buddhas attained awakening.
다 되기 거사주고 라진지 고도면서 전지 고도면서 삼바 다 될 때네 당신 저세.
So after these stanzas explain the next step, that is exchanging oneself for others. So that happens after meditating or reflecting on the points of faults, cherishing oneself, and the points of qualities for cherishing others. So then the next one is actual exchanging of oneself for others.
Exchange does not mean 다 현지 도시 현의 당 도시 그런 말이
Here,
랑지의 ዝ버디 현강 파샤 현 야워도디 랑강 초샤
so here, when we say exchanging oneself for others, it doesn't mean that you simply exchange the two persons. It doesn't mean that. Rather, it has to be understood in the context of exchanging the object of cherishing. So far, we have been cherishing oneself, and henceforth, you start the exchanging the two objects, the object of cherishing oneself and the object of being indifferent towards others. These two you change. So from now onwards, instead of cherishing oneself, you start cherishing others. And then instead of being indifferent towards others, you start to being indifferent towards yourself. So this is how you change oneself for others.
Through training, eventually, you can develop some kind of very dear feeling towards your neighbor, towards entire community. Ngaranze rangi tag nyinidu di dungye miduboda dewan deba dizelya be sem tagwane jibe zhe somebody 장체 단 디 첨배 남가 태도 bessemje zamuli digang yu bessemje zamuli 샤다 샴바리 bessemje 동해 미드보다 디두 소와 영해지 예 진짜라 동해 미드보다 다한테 찍버려 삼별로디 찍유로 두고 가요.
So here, now you may wonder as to how to really cultivate such a powerful sense of compassion, sense of empathy towards other sentient beings, because the other sentient beings, the number of the beings is just unimaginably great. It is very impractical to go about each sentient being and then think about the suffering nature, and then think about extending compassion towards each of these beings. Rather, what you do is that you try to think about cultivating a genuine sense of compassion, genuine sense of love and affection, and empathy towards all these beings who are surrounding you, who are close by you. Then when you gain a deep sense of unbiased attitude of love towards these beings who are in the immediate circle of yours, then you can extend the same thing towards all the other beings in the entire universe, in the galaxies and so forth. So this is how we can extend the cultivation of sense of love and empathy towards all other sentient beings.
Then in Shadada's book, this is particular emphasis, the importance of your enemy. The way explanation is, in order to practice infinite compassion or infinite altruism, the opposition of that kind of mind is hatred or anger. So we have to pay special attention about these negative
Opposing forces.
Opposing forces. So the object which you develop anger, that's we call enemy. So now think or analyze the enemy, particularly if you Shadada, you see, argue like this way. You, as a practitioner of altruism, you have to tackle the opposition of the altruism. That's anger, hatred. So the direct opposition force of anger is loving kindness or tolerance. So without tolerance, you cannot keep,
cultivate.
or you cannot keep the loving kindness towards everybody. So therefore, we need a special practice or special effort So in order to practice special sort of practice, right?
Especially.
Or specially,
No.
then you need enemy. Towards our friend, for me as a Buddhist, towards Buddha, no possibility to practice tolerance. Buddha never harmed to me. Oh, my friend, never create problem to me. So there is no basis lose because of anger, temper, and hatred. So who creates the possibility of losing temper is our enemy. So in order to challenge on practical level, you need enemy.
Enemy as your object.
So whether their side good motivation or not, to me at least something useful. Isn't it? It is true. The Nagarjuna or the Shantadeva mentioned, like true cessation or shunya itself. Their side, no motivation. Right?
No.
Some kind of kind attitude towards us. No. They are mindless.
No. Inanimate. Inanimate object.
But something useful to us. Therefore, we're cherishing these things. So the enemy, their side, not necessarily sincere, positive motivation in order to create a problem to us, but their very action is very useful for cultivate compassion or tolerance. Then further further questions in Shantadeva put it that Gaudengi nursing Mindugas, Gauden Dalandin nursing Mindugas, Tal nursing Dugas.
So the further kind of qualm raised in Shantadev's text is that the truth of cessation of suffering and the truth of the path, they don't have the sense of harming towards you, and whereas your enemy does possess the sense of harming, the desire to harm on you.
So that they land that nursing me, you saw timing towers. Nursing man, and MG Lao Pavia, Consa.
So then the response given by Shantadeva in the same text says that it is because that this particular person has the intention to harm you, that person is described as enemy. And the doctors who undertake surgery and who amputate your arm for some illness in these things. So we don't describe the doctor as an enemy, although he does the same action of causing some kind of alteration in your body.
So the very reason, very basis, so-called enemy is their negative motivation. Without that, we cannot call as an enemy. Without being enemy, there's no possibility to develop anger. So in order to, for practitioner, you need that kind of object. Then your practice of compassion, then that's the, because of the occasion to test. Like that. So that way, visualize, analyze that way, then eventually you can develop some kind of feeling of appreciation towards your enemy, the harmful actions. So once you see that achieved, then the altruistic mind, without obstacle, can go like chuk.
Can flow so naturally and so powerfully.
So therefore, the Shantadevas, the 6th chapter and 8th chapter, these two chapters are really important. So we have to study these two chapters particularly. That's very important. So that is what it is. Kangshi Kombat Damani. Shenji Dungi, Kitene, Sunday Tower, Tonaja, Nami by Jugoche, Dinning was on Dingar, Didi Tambe Chuluso. Tadanamji Rangluda, non Jimbo Mosan means, Shenung Tongwan Dishine, Leather de Utambakon, Tenning Wasser, Where Wasser, Mejung Wagan, Dimejung, what are that Domnute? Chanju some community, one at time Wasser Giada, Halaris. Down a shingi, Dong Shindo, Chaji Tabati, Sushin to share with Chuna, Wasser Giaris, that is all. Dongshindu, Nangshindu, Dongdi, Mosatiaris. That Dom Dinutrisha.
Next, we go to stanza 86. 86 and stanza 87, 88. These three are the summary of what we did so far. 86. When through practice it becomes firm, then alarmed by others' suffering, the bodhisattvas renounce the bliss of concentration and plunge even to the depths of relentless hells. This is indeed amazing, praiseworthy it is. This is the excellent way of the sublime. That they give away their own flesh and wealth is not surprising at all. Those who understand this emptiness of phenomena yet also conform to the law of karma and its results. That is more amazing than amazing, that is more wondrous than wondrous. These three stanzas summarize the, the teaching on how to cultivate the conventional bodhichitta and the ultimate bodhichitta. 86 and 87 explain that someone who is able to generate the conventional bodhichitta, so this is in fact the greatest qualities, the greatest source of amazement. And in a similar way, if someone cultivating or practicing this ultimate bodhicitta, which is the wisdom of emptiness, here again, when that person is able to understand that whatever appears doesn't possess objective reality, and whatever is absent of objective reality necessarily should exist. So when that person is able to reconcile the two ideas of the appearance and the empty aspect, so that person is truly praiseworthy and is a great source of amazement. And then, in connection to the practice of exchanging oneself for others, there is another very powerful practice called the practice of giving and taking, Tonglen. So here, what you do is, by emphasizing on the practice of compassion, you take upon yourself the sufferings and the faults of all other sentient beings. And then, because through emphasis on the practice of loving kindness, you give away all your pleasant things towards other sentient beings. So this forms the practice of giving and taking. And in the teaching of the mind training, it says that alter the practice the loving kindness and compassion in alternate ways.
And our breathing, take all sentient beings suffering and causes of suffering, take, visualize, right?
No.
Take. Then all the negative things now not only just enter our body, but reach deep in our heart, like that. So sometimes we feel a little uncomfortable. So now that is the indication of seriousness.
Yes.
just you see, taking all, just like this word, you see, they're taking all, I take all sentient beings suffering and give all my sort of the virtuous things without much feeling. Then, just like play, not much effect. Yes. But something very seriously take, then feel a little fear or uncomfortable. Or that much, or maybe too much, that kind of feeling. Should have that kind of feeling. Then further practice, then your self-centered attitude weaker. The altruistic attitude becoming stronger, like that. So, 대다 털람 니고네 제시방바 이동하면 나바제 샤사를 제라 다 아니 대다가 체도 가서 우리 그게 남지 되니 달로지 청주 되니 로사다 들어온 거야. 다 청주 되니 사대 영화는 돈이 있다고 해야 돼. 빼면서 계신 거예요.
And then after cultivating that sense of affection towards other beings, then you are to meditate on the next step. That is to meditate in order to meditate to cultivate this sense of desire to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And then here, in order to generate to generate a genuine sense of desire to achieve Buddhahood, you have to understand what Buddhahood means. And to understand Buddhahood well, genuinely, the understanding of emptiness is indispensable.
다디 샴샴 데드와 뇨모 메베 렌진셈 드니 노서 찌부티 뇨모 뒤서 충분히 뉴민 초벌차와 민.
We go to stanza 109, which reads, "A precious mind that is free of afflictions, this is the most unique and excellent jewel. It can be neither harmed nor stolen by such robbers as the marrow of afflictions."
단 디기 패지 아데 이거 자 뭐 당저 세야 치디 사운드베 치리 사운드베 저유 치리 자단 디 샤바 디기 패지 나 샤바 영초면으로 삼게.
This stanza 109, perhaps this could be explanation of the first stanza, the opening stanza of this text, which is the stanza extracted from Gwesamacha Tantra's text. So this could be the explanation in relation to the highest Yoga Tantra's interpretation.
당나게 subject이 안더 샤마타고 되게 탑기조 장주지셈 싫어고조 돈이도 다 디송송아 다 디니부티 야마자와시니 냠네체와 샤바레 야마체로 가르슬럼나 냐르 돈니곰 즉 단도 주모도 쳐도체 단도 주모도 차와 관에 장주sem고 다디 돈니 따에 지스베 장주sem고 다야 장주고 sem기 쳐서 심정이 나라 남진 톰도기 로로 야오 저 세tem니 로디 심베관에 돈이 다 단거 돈이 다고 단디 탑지심이 싫어서 차베 도시는 탑시 송지 로고야디 다 태고공 저 탑시 거바디 태고공 태고 가서 올 태고공 성을로도 탑시 야마죠 고야래 다 안다 건디 장주 선배 택배 탑시 야마절로도 돼 말해. 당나 걸려야 탑시 예르미치부사 샤베. 로직라 도시 탑시 소소로 저거마도 로직도 예denge지 샤베.
Here so far we talked about the practice of bodhichitta, the two kinds of bodhichitta. So in fact, the principal practice of the method is the bodhichitta, conventional bodhichitta, and the principal wisdom is the wisdom of emptiness. So in all the different the Buddhist vehicles, Buddhist systems, there's the mention for the need for the inseparability of the two practices, the practice of the path and the practice of the wisdom. So how does one do that? Is that first of all, you try to establish the understanding of emptiness, and then on the basis of that, you try to view everything as illusion-like nature. So after having a very clear discernment that everything is illusion-like nature, then on the basis of that, you try to generate this altruistic intention to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. So this is what is technically known as cultivating this, the method side, method aspect, which is bodhichitta, which is bodhichitta complemented by the wisdom of emptiness. And then in a like manner, through having a deep sense of conviction, a deep sense of altruism, empathy towards other sentient beings, desiring to achieve Buddhahood, with that in mind, then when you try to think about the true nature of everything, emptiness nature, that is the cultivation of wisdom complemented by the method. So here, in all the different Buddhist systems, there's the tremendous mention or the emphasis as to the need for the complementing the wisdom and mutually complementing the wisdom and the method side. The method complementing wisdom and the wisdom complementing the method. And then, so this is particularly from the point of view of the Mahayana or the Prajnaparamita system. And then perfection school system. And then according to Tantra, and particularly highest yoga Tantra, there's the mention for the need of the inseparability of the method and the wisdom. So these method and wisdom should not be understood simply in the context of the one associating the other or complementing the other. Rather, they should be viewed, they should be understood as of the same entity. This one and the same entity, the two sides, the method and the wisdom, just being the two sides of the same coin. In a like manner, you have to view the method and the wisdom in the aspect of the same entity, but described in two different terminologies.
That the other sometimes the usually don't chamo and the shares but the chair. That the don't chamo easy lot the law rapati maimba. Other human hedgy give law. That tea because of that tea tuning evasion. Chuna, Tapsi Yemish with Didaneta, Leguiare. So that tea only Rabolubu Semditi Gago. Rabolubu Namdo Gayala, Namdo Yojigi, Rabolubu Lundi Gago. Tinidane, that Rabolubu Lungsim Goktok chair, Della Solung Till Natune Goktok chair, check. 다 미도 짱바 코네가네 고도치야 직간이 좀.
And then
And
then as to how to cultivate this inseparability of the method and the wisdom in the context of highest yoga tantra is that here you have to understand first in terms of the object and the subject. In terms of the object, that is emptiness, the ultimate reality, the objective clear light, that is the emptiness, as already explained. And the subject, the subjective mind, which ascertains or which is focused on this objective clear light nature, that is emptiness. So that subjective mind should be something very extraordinary, something very special one. It should not be the grosser levels of mind ascertaining or understanding emptiness. Rather, it should be the innately existing subtle clear light mind, subtle mind. That should be the mind, the subjective mind focused on emptiness. If that happens, if you're able to utilize this innately existing subtle mind to focus on emptiness, And only then we can understand as to how there is the inseparability of the method and wisdom in the context of highest yoga tantra. Now the question is, how can we really generate or let manifest this subtle state of clear light mind, a subtle state of the mind, so that it has to be done by means of subduing, by means of undermining the grosser levels of mind. First, let dissolve all the grosser levels of mind, and when that happens, then the subtle, innate clear light mind becomes manifest. Now the question is, how can we let all these grosser levels of mind undermined? So there are two techniques. One, by the practice of the prana, the practice of the subtle drops, the channels, and the wind. And whereas the other method is by maintaining a single-pointed concentration on the uncommon meditation of the thoughtlessness.
That's all till in Ninta Tella, Della Sandu Chavishida, other Terran Sandu Chavishida, Lungan Sandu Chavish, Ni, Guisamanza, Lungan Sandu Chavi, Sakta Sambara, Terran Chavi. And with the practice with the practice of the prana, the drops and the channels. So as for that, again, it has two kinds. One which emphasizes on actualizing the bliss, and the other which emphasizes on the practice of the energy. So Charasamvara belongs to the first category, and Guya Samaja belongs to the latter category. And
whereas that technique, which maintains single-point meditation on the uncommon thoughtlessness, is the practice of Mahamudra and the practice of Dzogchen, the great completion.
What a deity, Nga Lami Shuni Sheshabe, Tawa Jongdang Tanya, Tawa Jongdang Stone, Dua, Sata, Nga Lami Luke, Tawa Jang Dusane, USA, Dana Pubne, Tene, Eugene USA, two more in Bachita, Gisabcha, the Dirisha.
So these are the means to maintain the refined state of view in the context of highest yoga tantra. So as for that, you have to keep in mind two things. That is the objective clear light and the subjective clear light. First, you establish the objective clear light, that is emptiness, and then on the basis of that, you try to generate or cultivate the subjective clear light, the subtle mind.
So, completed this text, the summary or the essence of this text, now completed.
Don't